Good evening. Hi, I'm Janet Gollery McKithen, a member of the steering committee of the Committee for Racial Justice, and now I welcome you here tonight. I'm excited that you're here. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to be with us, and we're blessed and honored that you did. This happens to be our 10th anniversary, and we're the pandemic behind us. We would have a blowout party like you wouldn't believe, but we will celebrate tonight, not in our usual December way. We normally have incredible food and cavorting and all kinds of stuff, but we will celebrate in this Zoom way. We especially welcome those who are joining us for the first time. We want to let you know and remind others that we didn't begin with some committee sitting down and planning a committee for racial justice. We began with an incident on May 4th, 2011. An African American member of the Santa Monica High School wrestling team was taken to a locker by two Caucasian teammates while there were chants of slave for sale and a noose with a brown dummy was hung nearby. This racially charged incident and the district's slow response resulted in the formation of the Committee for Racial Justice. Pre and post-COVID, we hold monthly workshops at Virginia Avenue Park and actions in between. Our mission statement reads, with the conviction that all human beings deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, we are committed to combating all forms of racial injustice, whether overt or covert, whether individualized or systemic, that take place in our community. While racism affects many cultural groups, we are especially drawn to focus on the severe impact it has on the African American community. Tonight, we'll hear from a number of folks and also have some time for discussion. Angela Scott, a CRJ steering committee member, Derek Devermont, the vice chair of Santa Monica's Public Safety Reform and Oversight Commission, Tara Boroskas, chair of the CRJ housing team, and Joanne Berlin, who is a member of the steering committee, will all provide insights from CRJ's workshop this past year on mental health, criminal justice and policing, CRT, and housing issues. As is CRJ's custom in the holiday season, there will be music provided this year by the wonderful William Bryant, a vocalist, songwriter, and keyboard artist who has worked over the years with folks like Patti LaBelle, Marvin Gaye, Barry Grant, Barry White, and Sheena Easton. He's currently the Minister of Music at Imani Christian Cathedral in Pomona, and he is also adjunct faculty at Santa Monica College. In past years, prior to the COVID outbreak, William was present at CRJ's December workshops as the director of the amazing Emeritus Choir. Please welcome back Mr. William Bryant.
Thank you very much for that wonderful, kind welcome. So tonight I'm here, actually, I'm representing my wonderful choir, my gospel choir, the Santa Monica College Emeritus Gospel Choir. And because of the COVID shutdowns and the things we've been going through, and we haven't been able to rehearse and prepare a performance together. So I'm going to do a couple of songs, but my first song will be something I'm going to show actually a video of my choir. I thought it'd be appropriate to do that since I couldn't, show you them singing live tonight. I can show you something that we've recorded. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you all a video of my wonderful choir. As soon as I can pull up share screen here. Okay, this was recorded at the 82nd stage over at the Santa Monica College Performing Arts Center. The song's called Let It Ride.
Let it rise among us. Let the glory of the Lord let it rise among us. Let the praises of our King rise among us. Let it rise. Everybody sing the glory of the Lord. Let the glory of the Lord. Let the praises of the King. Oh, let it rise. Oh, 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 let it rise. Let the power of the Lord, power of the Lord, rise. Let the power of the Lord, the power of the King, oh, let it rise. Let the power of the Lord, let the power of the Lord, let it rise. The power of the King, let it rise. Let it rise. Oh, 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 let it rise. The dance of the Lord. Dance of the Lord. Dance of the Lord. The dance of the King. Let the shout of the Lord. Shout of the Lord. Let the shout of the Lord. Shout of the King. Let it rise. Thank you.
Wow. That was amazing, William.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know, y'all couldn't see me, but I was rocking. I was rocking.
I can
I
only
was
see the
rocking.
choir.
That's what I would be doing if we were at Virginia Avenue Park.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, thank you all for coming here tonight. For those who don't know me, I'm Robbie Jones. I'm one of the steering committee members of Committee for Racial Justice. And just a couple weeks ago, I have these friends that are with Black Hollywood Resource and Education, Black Hollywood Education and Resource Center. Uh, Mr. John Forbes had invited me out to an event, and I always meet wonderful people out there, but I met this wonderful lady who they showed one of the films that he was featured in, and her Starletta Dupois. Now, Miss Dupois was supposed to be here this evening, but you know the demands of a great actress are high, even in COVID, and so she's out of the country right now, and so we can't fault her for that. We just thank her and know that she'll be here. You know, hopefully next year we'll be able to have her participate. But one of the things that I was taken away with is that fact that she was talking about a lot of her racial experiences, experiences with racism as being an actress for as many years as she has been an actress, and to still be here and going through some things still was really quite moving for her and for me. It touched my heart. And that's why I had invited her here this evening. So I apologize to all who had came on just to see her. She's a wonderful actress and a wonderful person. And so we hope to see her next year. But you know what? Y'all gonna enjoy this program. I can guarantee you it's gonna be great. So happy holidays, everybody. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to introduce a very important person who's part of our leadership team here with Committee for Racial Justice, Mr. Craig Ali.
Thank you, Robbie. And what I'm going to do essentially is give you an overview of the events of the year and read an op-ed about two court cases, that shows the disparity in justice in terms of, because that's what we are, Committee for Racial Justice, and the disparities between the two. So in looking at the events occurring in 2021, a lot of the activities in 2021 stem from what happened in 2020. Beginning in January, an attempted coup. Now this is all national. This is the national stage. An attempted coup was waged to disrupt the installation of a new commander-in-chief based allegedly on fraudulent voting results. As early as February and March, filings by state officials in the Republican installation alleging improprieties were carried out. Again, none of it proven, but it was still carried out. In March, the trial of Derek Chauvin, one of the 4 police officers responsible for the death of George Floyd, had begun. Throughout April and May and June, school boards were turned into battlegrounds, chiefly around mask mandates ordered by various governors of those states. Another issue that brought steam was the CRT, which is critical race theory. The operative word being theory, which is a framework where race and law intersect to approach justice issues inevitably along racial lines. July, Texas Democrats who held office walked out of the legislature, thus denying a quorum to the entire state Senate to protest what the governor was bringing out as part of a redistricting thing based on the census. Throughout the debate, homelessness, the debate on adequate health care, as well as budgetary concerns to pay for an infrastructure ravaged by a pandemic that has lasted well over 18 months. Finally, in November, the national scope of trials with Kyle Rittenhouse, as well as Ahmaud Arbery, which I've more or less also, written something in reference to an op-ed for, which I think we'll try and put in our newsletter. In a retrospective view of the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, more was expressed than the First or the Second Amendment. A number of things have to be bared in mind. Earlier in the week, Rittenhouse verdict, a black man who was sentenced to death got a reprieve, due in large part to protestations at an Oklahoma governor's home. Bearing also in mind that Rittenhouse enjoyed an extreme privilege not available to any other person, and the not guilty verdict speaks volumes in other ways. Pushback and bolstering on decisions to close health clinics, which brought huge protestations and attitude to march in the millions, not just on Washington, D.C., but around the nation. The gunning down of progressive white citizens strongly aligned with Black Lives Matter protesters, purposed by the shooting of Kenosha, Wisconsin's own Jacob Blake. I speak as someone who has witnessed the hostility of the far right personally. So one has to ask, the Second Amendment is more precious than the first, or is there a pause to reflect on the gains of progressives as unifying as utilizing their First Amendment rights? In reference to the Arbery case, we have to further examine the idea of a double standard of justice here in America. Facts are, after a murder was committed, nothing was declared a crime scene, no evidence was taken at the time, and as a result, in fact, an arrest was not made for not another even 2 months. Rationale at the time, 2 of the 3 involved had ties either currently or formerly in law enforcement. The evidence proved crucial in the guilty verdict came from one of the defendants, found on a social media outlet. Though the jury came through with a just verdict, let us imagine the result what might be if there was no tape. Would there have been a verdict, or would there even have been a trial? Fact is, a Black man is dead. So where do we go from there? Thank you.
Thank you, Craig, for that review of, this has been truly a historical, tumultuous year. And as we move into it, what we're now going to do is transition into a piece where we'll start to look back as a reflection on a few, if not all, of the events that we held this past year. And then I will speak more specifically on a few of those events. So Tara, if you could share your screen, and I'm just going to scroll through and do a little bit of a highlight on our presentation. So the first month in January, we dove into the eviction tsunami theme, which of course we know has affected, need I say thousands within Santa Monica, but millions if you think about the country as a whole. So January, we took a deep dive into that. We had folks from our housing commission speak. You can go to the next slide. In February, we did the In Pursuit of Happiness theme, empowering Black families. And I'm going to circle back to this one in a few moments, but this one we took a deep dive into Black mental health and wellness and getting beyond intergenerational trauma. Next slide. Tar? Or not? Tar?
Sorry, I had a technical difficulty.
Oh, no worries.
Sorry about that.
You're good. And for March, we celebrated Women's History Month with Nurturing Our Queens, the mixtape. Again, I will circle back and dive into this one a little bit more. But again, we looked at self-care and what it takes to really nurture yourself as opposed to always nurturing everyone else, because if you're not good, then how are you going to help anybody else around you? So we really looked at that and what self-care was all about. Next slide, please. April, we circled back to Eviction Tsunami Part 2. And this time we invited our mayor, Sue Himmelrich, as well as Mike Soloff, who is one of our housing commissioners. And then we also had a representative of the Eviction Defense Network. And this was a very lively and robust discussion again about what is happening and how we can get those resources in order to ensure that we don't continue displacing folks as a result of our current moratorium and where we sit on that. Next slide, please. In May, we looked at this time of civil unrest, and we went more deeper into what is happening from the piece of getting through, and looking at the Black Lives Matter and how our public safety oversight commission can look at also being part of restorative justice. Next slide, please. June was one of my highlights, I think. In June, we had our very own LA County District Attorney, George Gascon, and he spoke, and it was an evening with George Gascon, I might say, and he was able to really provide a thank you to Commissioner George Brown for mediating that. But it was a nice, interesting reflection on what our new district attorney is doing as far as police reform and what that means in LA as a whole. And also we looked at the different pushback that he's doing, because he is extremely progressive. So we looked at everything that he's moved forward in and how we can best support him in his efforts. Next slide, please. For July and August, we reached and dove into a hot button issue, critical race theory, which is something we will probably I know we will, in fact, review this again next year, in the coming year. But we started scratching the surface of what it is and why we need it. And in this one, and this part, and in part 2, this part specifically, we looked at it from the school system, and we had our superintendent, Dr. Ben Drotti, as well as Dr. Satinder Hawkins, who leads our social justice curriculum. And then we also had Dr. John Pasquarelli from USC, as well as Dr. Angela Clark-Lope, another expert on rolling out critical race theory within the education system, especially when you look at how parents can be involved in that. And then the next slide. September, like I said before, was Critical Race Theory Part 2. We had Dr. Latoya Baldwin Clark from UCLA School of Law. And we also had Minister Stanley Tolbert. And I tell you, if you missed that one, you should go back and look at that tape. That was a lesson. Can I just say a lesson in critical race theory? Again, a very good workshop. Next slide, please. October, we looked at who's policing who, 21st century policing. And we had several, myself, as well as our chair, George Brown, our vice chair, Derek Devermont, who's going to speak in just a moment, as well as Michelle Wittig, who leads the Community Coalition for Police Reform here in Santa Monica. And we also had Commissioner Craig Miller. And we really talked about what is happening right now as far as police reform. Michelle gave us a robust review of the past several years of police reform, specifically here in Santa Monica, leading the Coalition for Police Reform. And then we also looked at the things that our new commission is doing. And again, Derek is going to speak momentarily. Next slide, please. November, we looked at housing justice, which equals racial justice. And again, we dove in on, and Tara is going to speak on that in a moment as well, But we looked at what is currently happening right now as far as housing in Santa Monica specifically, and the things that we're moving forward on as far as trying to fight eviction and discrimination. And again, Tara is going to speak momentarily on that as well and give us an update as how CRJ is doing to help best support that. And then here we are, celebrating. And from that moment, I will just go ahead and dive into a reflection. And as I had mentioned, I'm only going to speak about a couple of workshops that I felt were really powerful, and then we will have others like myself, Derek and Tara, speak on additional workshops. One of the ones I wanted to talk about was February. February was a milestone as we set out to empower the African-American families and allies. So this one, again, was themed In Pursuit of Happiness, Empowering Black Families. As many of you know, the double pandemic of civil unrest and COVID-19 triggered a mental health crisis within the Black community, which we're seeing disparaging outcomes. According to the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, Black American folks, who only make up 13.4% of the US population, in fact, when you look at that in 2019, the age-adjusted suicide rate for Black population was 7.4 per 100,000. This is over half of the US suicide rate, which was 13.2 over 100,000. So that kind of gives you a brief look at how deep suicide is among the Black African-American population. This tumultuous time also has led to an increase in reported cases of depression within adults and teens, domestic abuse, addiction, and alcoholism. In this February workshop, we took a deep dive into intergenerational trauma, which is rooted in systemic racism and oppression. And it, again, is disproportionately impacting our Black families. Our February meeting explored the root of it and its disconcerting outcomes. When we think of intergenerational trauma, we often hear people say, this runs in my family. Oh yeah, this has been passed down from generation to generation. But what in fact is being passed down is the effects of trauma, right? Distressing, devastating, deeply disturbing events and family issues that you don't want to talk about, you have a problem talking about. These harmful results of trauma experienced by relatives, cultural groups in years past, in fact, impact generations to come. Reactions to trauma may include anger, fear, sadness, shame, a lack of emotions, high-risk behavior, substance abuse disorder, eating disorders, or even learned helplessness, inability to control the personal environment around you, or you're feeling unequipped to take action. You're paralyzed because of this intergenerational trauma that's affecting you. Younger generations also experience trauma-related physical issues, sleep disorder, gastrointestinal issues such as chronic stomach pain. Those are just a couple of examples. And sad enough, Black members in the community are hesitant to seek mental health services due to communal stigma surrounding mental health therapy. So in that particular workshop, In Pursuit of Happiness, our panelists include Mayumi McKinley, who's a licensed clinical social worker and founder of the Healing Black Intergenerational Trauma Center. We had Nakia Fields, another licensed clinical social worker and president of Therapeutic Play Foundation, along with Rachel Chamber, who has a master's of public policy and administration, and she's co-founder of Painted Brain Healing Services Through the Arts. We also had Magic Collins, a mental health and civil rights advocate and host of Fight the Funk podcast, as well as Sir James Bailey, who's facilitator of Faithful Fellowships and Humanities at Free LA High School. All of them are members of the Black Mental Health Task Force, which is a coalition of organizations, clinicians, advocates, and educators dedicated to improving the lives of our Black community. Although the past, present, and future are intertwined with trauma that is passed from generation to generation, the mental health care community can address trauma to offer help, hope, and healing for those who have inherited traumatic effects. Understanding and intervening in trauma that spans generations is crucial to help heal from past harm, empower those living in the present, and break free from the cycle for their mental wellness, and disrupt the harmful cycle that so affects of trauma. Another big takeaway is understanding that we repeat what we don't repair. Did you get that? We will repeat what we don't repair. In March, we celebrated Women's History Month with the theme, Nurturing Our Queens, the Mixtape. Black women stand at the crossroads of the systemic ills of racism, sexism, and heteropatriarchy, especially in the medical profession. Data demonstrates that they're more likely to be exposed to COVID-19 and that those who become infected with the virus face higher risks of complications and mortality than whites. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, in 2020, Black people are 1.4 times more likely to contract COVID-19 and 3.7 times more likely to be hospitalized for its symptoms, and 2.8 times more likely to die from the virus than their white peers. Moreover, if you think about this piece, Black patients are 40% less likely than their white counterparts to secure the medicine that they need for acute pain. But we cannot fix a problem if we fail to recognize it, especially within the medical field. Thankfully, through concerted efforts, we will continue to use our voices, right, to decry the inequities that Black women face. Taking care of ourselves and our loved ones should be a guiding principle. And that's for all. This is for all of us. Taking care of ourselves and our loved ones should be a guiding principle. Yet creating self-care routines, especially during a pandemic, has proven to be a bit of an obstacle course, especially for women of color. So while learning to navigate through what appears to be a new normal, we all, especially Black women, stand at the crossroads of this reckoning as leaders, nurturers, and providers. So this March workshop really explored why self-care matters and how to put self-care into action by empowering the mind, the body, and the spirit. Dr. Tasca Moore, who's an OBGYN and Chief Executive Officer of Healthy Bump LLC. So she spoke on honoring a queen's temple, her body, and how to maintain optimal health throughout every stage of a woman's life cycle. And through her Healthy Bump organization, she's part of a sisterhood of women of color, healthcare professionals dedicated to reversing the maternal health crisis, which is one thing we are going to look at next year, is that maternal health morbidity. What happens when women of color give birth and die within days later? We're going to take a look at that and why that still occurs, especially when you consider all the technology that we've now advanced in. I'm going to stop there, but it has been to my co-chair, not co-chair, but my co-commissioner, who happens to be vice chair of the Public Safety Reform and Oversight Commissioner. I hand off to you, Mr. Derek Devermont.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
I'm gonna
can,
get-
loud and clear. Thank you.
I'm gonna take
And
a
I love
dance.
your,
Bye.
I love your Christmas Hanukkah sweater. Thank you so much.
Happy holidays, everyone. Fair enough. By the way, I just want to say, Angela, you never cease to impress me. And this organization, like the commission, is very lucky to have you. And I'm lucky to have you as a colleague and a friend. I do want to recognize two other people on this call. One is my fellow elected member on the DNC, Carolyn Fowler. I don't know how many of you know Madam Fowler, but she is an amazing powerhouse unto herself. I'm a fan of her. I know her daughter, and I like both. I have known to be, let me make sure she's still on. I've known to be a good person and a good friend is Patricia Hoffman, who I think was on this, may not be, but I've recently learned as late as today that she has reaffirmed my belief that she is a true advocate and a very good friend. So I apologize for being late. I had a small emergency. I'm at a Hanukkah event and we had a small emergency, so I apologize for being late. It looks like it was resolved as a health emergency, but it looks like we got it going. So let's talk about the Public Safety Reform and Oversight Commission. And I'm sure Ms. Whittick could talk in depth about it. She's at every one of our meetings. But looks like the burden's been placed on me, as could my colleague, Ms. Scott. So what have we had going on? Well, we have a few new commissioners. I don't want to say we're handpicked by the Police Officers Association, but I will say their input was strongly considered and they bring a very, I don't want to say different perspective because a lot of times it's normal perspective, but it's a different outside the commission, but it's a different perspective to the commission and one that brings, is more sympathetic to law enforcement. That was a result of certain commissioners falling off. Now, as many of you know, we did have a lawsuit against the city of Santa Monica, or a board complaint, not a lawsuit, labor complaint against the city of Santa Monica with regard to the commission's functioning. The city of Santa Monica, and I haven't read the entire agreement or settlement, but my understanding, the city of Santa Monica agreed to allow a ex officio member on the commission to represent Santa Monica PD or the Police Officers Association. I'm not sure if it's both or one. Ex officio means that person will not be voting. There are many different views of this. I'll give you my personal view. My personal view, as long as it's voting, the commission can continue to do its work unfettered. Others feel that it can't. Some feel that it will be benefiting. My thing is we're going to keep doing what we need to do. And we've been doing the work. We did an OIR, we did a report to the city regarding the OIR report regarding the SMPD's reaction during the unrest last year. In this report, through various hearings and I don't want to say testimony because that implies under oath, but we had many guests from SMPD and otherwise who came in to show where SMPD excelled and unfortunately where it was deficient. And we found that there were areas where there was negligence and borderline, if not total misconduct, specifically to some of our citizens. And let's be honest, to our citizens that are people of color. We discovered through the report and through our guests, and I'm going to talk about this, and I'm on a phone, so I want to make sure I focus on the right person when I'm looking at them. I'm looking for you, Miss Scott, while I talk about this, because I want to see your face, if I can find you, which I appear not to be able to. But we discovered that a lot of officers, for whatever reason, did not have their body cameras on during the unrest, or in fact might have turned them off. Why am I talking about this? I'll tell you why I'm talking about this. Brooks come in and tell us that up to 15 officers were disciplined for not proper use of body cams during the unrest. At the most recent standing committee meeting, and I'm jumping ahead and back and forth, but there's a reason for this. We had a guest from Internal Affairs, and I will get into that a little later. That guest told me that all disciplinary actions resulting from 2020 were currently listed on SMPD's website. It took a little bit of finding, but it's true what he said. After reviewing the website, it appears that exactly 0 officers, 0, were disciplined for body camera violations that occurred during 2020. I think all of you can put it together as to the truthfulness of what we were told. Initially, starting off with the commission, we had, I would say, strong resistance from SMPD, culminating in the labor complaint. I think through various, for lack of a better term, sit downs between me and SMPD and Chair Brown and certain members of SMPD, I'd say that resistance is lessening. But I also think a very large part of this is our new chief. For those who don't know our new chief came from Arizona. In Arizona, some felt he was too progressive, too forward thinking. I think generally speaking, as a general principle, I like a forward thinking chief that looks at public safety as a health issue and is willing to do away with ineffective, to welcome in new effective, thoughtful methods of dealing with crime. I think because since this new chief came in, for the time being, there's been a different approach to the commission. Hopefully this keeps up. I am cautiously, I'll say very cautiously optimistic. I will tell you this commission will not be lulled or charmed into complacency. If SMPD wants to work with us, which they appear to want to do at this moment, with this since the inception of this new chief, I'm happy to work with them. But I promise you, the minute that there appears to be unreasonable resistance, we will do our job. What we're waiting on, and hopefully what will happen soon, is the implementation or the hiring of an inspector general. An inspector general will be somebody who works for the city, who is a attorney's office and the commission. That will be the person who gets us our information, so we don't necessarily have to rely on our own communications and our own efforts to get SMPD. We can go to the inspector general. The inspector general will get for us what is legally ours. By the way, Commissioner Scott, feel free to step in if you say something that you feel you can add to, or if I'm saying something in error. I chair what is called the Accountability Systems Standing Committee. Obviously, the Standing Committee deals with all things that deal with accountability. We recently had a meeting where we had, and this is what I was talking about, regarding the complaint system. We had 2 members from Internal Affairs. One was a sergeant who was a former supervisor, who is an analyst and works for SMPD as an analyst to adjudicate or to weigh in on complaints. We discovered a lot, and the hearing is online. To be honest, although I found the members to be a little withholding at some points, I found them overall, to be honest, to be pretty forthcoming, pretty open to suggestions, and honest where they felt suggestions wouldn't work, and honest where they felt they would work. We will, the committee will be writing a proposed report for the city of Santa Monica to make adjustments or changes to the complaint system within SMPD. The standing committee will vote, and then if it's approved, it'll go to the full commission to vote whether to submit to council. I'll tell you some things that I thought will be helpful. I think what generally happens, we've learned, is somebody goes to file, say they want to issue a complaint, let's say in person. Complaints can be done in person, technically. Should be able to be done in person, over the phone, or by website. Let's deal with in person first. There's no specific form for a complaint. There's a general form. And although that general form should be given to people who ask, it's not specific to complaints. Unfortunately, I have found more than one video, I think 2 or 3, of people walking into SMPD saying, hey, can I have the form to file a complaint? And SMPD saying, we don't have that, you gotta do it online. One video is just outright resistance. The more recent video dated April this year, it appears the officer just really doesn't know and says, here's a form as to how to do it, not the form to file a complaint, a form with instructions how to do it. And that officer goes and gets a supervisor. And what appears to be the norm is somebody goes in to file a complaint, they're either met with resistance or the officer does what per policy they're supposed to do right now and goes and gets a supervisor. That supervisor comes out and then decides whether there's a real issue for a complaint, where this complaint has to do with policy, and maybe whether the person who walked in saying they want to file a complaint really wants to file a complaint. That troubles me. What I would like to see happen, and I'm always open to suggestions, I think somebody who walks in and says, I want to file a complaint. Okay, they're given a specific form. The form is a line of specific questions plus an area for a narrative that is taken, given to a supervisor. Supervisor comes out, takes it, says, is there anything you want to add? By the complaint, but then takes that, sends it to IAD, and IAD deals with it. What that eliminates is the ability for a supervisor who might not be as informed as internal affairs as to proper policy, from making a wrong decision as to whether there's a possible policy complaint. It also eliminates the possibility of bias from the supervisor who may have worked with this officer who's receiving the complaint, or who is the subject of the complaint. It may prevent the supervisor from, trying to steer it away, or just a normal bias of a friendliness toward that officer, and therefore doubt to the complainant. This would go straight to an objective party. My idea, the supervisor would take the complaint written, takes it to, goes to IAD. The interaction of, without the possibility of that co-working bias that results from supervisor and patrol officer. As we know, when people work together for a number of years, it can result in good or bad biases. I like to eliminate that. Next, we'll be having, on the 6th, I believe, we will be having a committee meeting talking about body cams. We're supposed to have some guests from SMPD, hopefully we will. And they will talk to us about the technical issues, the advantages of body cams, and where they are deficient. The range, hopefully they will demonstrate how to use them. Hopefully they will demonstrate how to use them, and we'll learn how officers can turn them on, turn them off, when they should turn them on, when they should turn them off, etc. Meeting after that, we will have a yes, Angela. I got to read. I'm on my phone, so I got to read the text later. But always yes, Angela. We'll be having a meeting on decertification, how SMPD handles it, et cetera. And the final meeting will be about Brady evidence. Now, for those who don't know, Brady evidence is evidence that is material to a defense in a criminal case where the prosecutors are obligated to turn it over. They often get this evidence. It's supposed to be maintained by the SMPD, but all police agencies. SMPD is supposed to timely turn this over to the city attorney's office, who will turn it over to the defense. There's a lot of issues with this regarding Brady list, and what those deal with is what I'd like to see happen, and what I'm going to work toward is that this evidence, or at least the acknowledgements this evidence exists, should be turned over to defense counsel or the defendant at the very, very first court appearance. And sometimes what happens is a defendant will go 2, 3, 4, sometimes more, sometimes the day of trial, court appearances, and then, oh yeah, all of a sudden, hey, by the way, your officer has been found to have used excessive force, to have lied in a police report, to have committed different forms of misconduct. Obviously, that's material to a defense. That's material to defendant's credibility when he says, I did not do whatever you're talking about. That evidence, in my view, needs to be turned over first court appearance. We're going to have a hearing on it. And also, there's going to be the issue as to how they're interacting with District Attorney Gascon's office. And we're going to try and make sure that SMPD and the city attorney's office are forthcoming and cooperative with all the requests from District Attorney Gascon's office, who, from my understanding, believes what I do, that this material should be given on the first court date or even before. So with that, I'm happy to take questions. I hope I haven't talked too much. I hope you're all doing well. Happy holidays. The illustrious Ms. Hoffman, who I was talking about, Ms. Hoffman, I believe it is in the agenda, which is published. I hope we don't have some technical errors given the holidays, and that this meeting will be going forward. And with
No,
that,
thank you. Thank you, Derek. I think you did great. I just wanted to circle back. I know everybody's gonna kill me, but I just wanted to ask real quick. I wanted you to clarify once again regarding the complaints, right? Like currently, is there a process? Like we don't have one, right? Or
currently there is.
is
Well, it
there a
depends.
full
Stage in the complaint process you're talking about. Is there a specific form that people can ask for when they come in that is designed specifically for complaints? The answer is affirmatively, from what I can tell, no. There is complaint can be filed online, and therefore there is an online procedure. But I'll just say affirmative. There is a complaint process into how these are to be done. It is not to my satisfaction. But the answer to your question is to specifically complaint forms. Is there a specific one for complaints within SMPD? The answer is no.
Okay, thank you. So what we'll do now, because we will try to have Q&A later on. Thank you so much for your review. And Craig, I see your hand up as well. If you could hold that until we move on, because we still have another performer for this evening, and then we'll circle back later. Derek, I hope you can stay on. I'm not sure. I know there's some things going on, but if you could log back in, perhaps. If not, we're going to talk about this next year. So again, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
I'll tell you what, Angela, if you can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. If you could text me, because to log back on, that would be very helpful.
Okay, I'll do that as well. Okay, so
Thank
I definitely
you so much, guys.
Oh, thank you, Derek. I will text you. I am now going to hand off to Mr. William Bryant, and we're looking for another performance by him. Take it away, Mr. Bryant.
Okay, okay, there you go. Let's see. Can you hear me? Oh, good. Is entitled Amazing. amazing. Your love for me. It's so amazing. Your sacrifice for me. For every blessing given to me. For every valley you used to strengthen me. I don't deserve your love, your tender mercy. If not for your grace, where would I be? So amazing, your love for me. So amazing, your sacrifice for me. Every blessing given to me. For every valley you used to strengthen me. I don't deserve your love, your tender mercy. If not for your grace, where would I be? I stand amazed, Lord. Yes, God, I stand amazed. 'Cause you're so amazing. Yes, you are. I stand amazed. I stand amazed. Stand amazed at your power. So amazing. So amazing. I stand amazed. I stand. All of your power. So amazing. So amazing. Yes, you are. I stand amazed in your power. So amazing. So amazing. So amaze me, God, you amaze me. Oh, yes, you do. Every day. Everybody say so. Yes, you are. So amazing. So amazing. So, Lord, you're so, Lord, you're so amazing. So amazing, Lord. All your power. Your strength, so amazing, so amazing, Lord, so amazing, so amazing, Lord. We give you glory, and we declare today that you're so amazing. Every time you kept me, Lord, you never let me. So amazing. So amazing. Sing, everybody sing so. Amazing. So amazing, Lord, you are. Whoa. So amazing. I'm gonna say it again, Lord. So amazing. So amazing. All the time you kept me. So amazing. Hold on. Sing so. make all things new. Yes, you make all things new, and I will follow you forward. Yes, you make all things new. Yes, you, Lord. I will follow you forward. Thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. William, what a blessing. I know I'm stepping in, y'all. Y'all gonna get mad at me. I know Tara's next, but I just have to say it. Mr. Bryant is not
Thank you.
only a longtime friend of mine,
Absolutely.
but yeah, after we go way back, I mean, little bitty.
Don't even tell them how long.
Oh, we're not gonna tell them how long. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I look to you to tell them that.
That's
But,
right.
you
That's
know,
right.
no, William, as Mr. Travis put in the chat, is a legend here in Santa Monica in regards to music.
Oh, boy, boy.
Growing up right here at Calvary Baptist Church, he played with. You've heard his bio, and that's just a snippet, right? He is a long bio, but just the work that he's done with Emeritus, and then to come on for us, I just want to thank you, William.
Thank
Right
you.
here, I just want to say thank you because you blessed me with that song right there. I think Nat and I both about to jump through the computer.
Thank you, and Mayor Travis. Thank both of y'all.
Well, I just think what we should do is everybody unmute for a second and just say so amazing. I mean, I think
Yes.
we all want to shout. So let's do chaotic.
So amazing.
So
amazing.
amazing.
So amazing. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yes.
So amazing.
Are
Yes.
the fabric
So
of
amazing.
Monica.
So amazing.
Amazing.
So amazing.
Beautiful.
Oh,
so
well,
amazing.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Thank you.
What a beautiful
All right, thank
song
you.
for the
You
end
What
of
a
the year.
gift.
Thank you.
A
Beautiful
gift.
song
You really,
for the
really
end of the
blessed
year.
us,
Yeah.
William. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank
And
you.
blessed
I
every-
wish the whole choir could be here, but they're here in spirit.
and some of them are here.
Right. Some of them are. Exactly. Some of them are. Yeah, absolutely.
Brought them with you.
Yeah.
That's right, they're there. So
Beautiful.
I also want to let people know that not only are we celebrating with William Bryant, such an incredible way, but and looking back on what we did this year, but we're also looking forward. So if you have a passion about, we know that systemic racism is so widespread and there's so many aspects of it. There might be a particular aspect that you in particular are passionate about, and you hope that we do a workshop on, or you'd like to do more work on, but you need a group. If you'd put that in the chat, what your particular issue about racism is, what you'd like to work on, and maybe if we had a few people doing that with you, you could make a dent more than just by yourself. So in the chat, if you have an issue that you are particularly passionate about, please put it in the chat and put your email if we don't have your email already on our list. And if you'd like to be on our list and are not at the same time, and you just put your name in the chat and say, I'd like to be in the list, and put your email. So either way, we would like to have your input though, because this coming year, we'd like to be very interactive. And the more people we have passionately working on what they're passionate about, the more we can get done. So I suggest that you do that. And next, Tara Baruskas is up. She's the chair of our new CRJ housing team, and they have been really busy. And some of their work you've already seen at some of our workshops, but I would like Tara to take it away.
Okay, great. Oh, great. And I'm going to just share a couple slides here. So thank you, Reverend Janet. It's been an honor to work with the Housing Committee this year. This committee just started in March, and we started really by trying to come together around what is the vision that we want to see. And this is the statement that we came up with. We envision an inclusive, welcoming community where everyone is given the opportunity to be able to live and thrive in safe, high quality, and stable housing. And, you know, unfortunately, the reality is not what people are experiencing, in particular people of color. And so this is what the Housing Committee is aiming to change. And as you've heard in some of the previous presentations, it's been a busy year for the CRJ and some really powerful work that's been happening. And certainly what Janet said is true. The more people that work together around a common issue, the more you can make impact. And I just am going to frame a little bit about housing injustice. I think maybe it was the year before this year that there was a presentation at CRJ. Familiar with it now than they were. And so this is sort of the baseline of where we are in terms of historical racial segregation in the country, but in particular in Santa Monica. So that combined with two major displacement events that happened, the construction of the 10 freeway and the redevelopment of the Belmar neighborhood. Those are things that really impacted people of color, in particular Black community members, significantly, and those effects are still being felt today. So there are sort of overt things, and I think Janet mentioned this earlier too, there's overt things that have happened in terms of discrimination and racism. And then there are things that are sort of under the radar, but are there constantly. And so some of those things that are still here and consistently happening, there's displacement happening in Santa Monica. There is still Section 8 discrimination happening. Inequality in terms of what Black people have experienced in terms of the loss of being able to build equity because of lack of homeownership opportunities. And there's a general lack of supply of affordable housing. And I'm sure many of you know, and we've certainly discussed it here, that people of color in particular are the ones who have really been the victims of these inequities more than anybody else. And so these are the issues the Housing Committee wants to work on. So we came around some policy issues this year. One of them was the housing element. Because that really is a place where you can plan for things like where should affordable housing go in the city, and how do you affirmatively further fair housing, which basically means ensuring that there's equitable distribution, that affordable housing is situated near a variety of resources and not just kind of put out in the boondocks. Housing element was just adopted by the City Council. I think it was in October. So the CRJ Housing Committee did do some advocacy around that. And then we also started talking about acknowledgement. And you've all seen some things that have happened this year in terms of, following the murder of George Floyd and some of the other community members. And how do we start to rectify some of the things that have happened? And the CRJ Housing Committee has put forth some recommendations in terms of how the city could acknowledge the historical racial events that have occurred and that need to be rectified. So hopefully more to come in 2022 on that. But there is something that's very exciting that's happening right now, which is the city has created a right to return policy for families that have been displaced by those two large displacements. January, I think it's 18th. And it will be priority for up to 100 people on the affordable housing wait list. So that's something that's going to be happening. So we encourage you all, if you know anybody that may have been impacted by either the Belmar redevelopment or the construction of the 10 freeway, there are opportunities now to have people, and this goes not only to people directly impacted, but their descendants as well, to get priority on the affordable housing waiting list for the whole city. So that's something to be paying attention to that we were involved in. There was an exciting bill that passed this year that this CRJ Housing Committee did quite a bit of advocacy on, which is AB 721, which addressed restrictive covenants. And those are those racial covenants that many of you may have on your homes or properties that you've seen that also word racist provisions are no longer legal, but everything else in the documents is. And so AB 721 attempts to address one in particular, which was hindering affordable housing production. And that did successfully pass and was signed into law. So that was very exciting. And then we've started to get our heads around some of the issues that, you know, in terms of Black families in particular, things that they're facing in terms of Section 8 and fair housing discrimination. So we had a great conversation with the city manager. We've talked with a few other folks and trying to figure out what is it as advocates that we can do to try to address some of these things that we know are happening in the city. And of course, we did put on a workshop last month in partnership with the steering committee, just to try to help people understand that there are resources out there. So if you're being treated unfairly, you know, or even if you have any workshop. So I encourage you to go back and take a listen to it if you weren't able to participate. But our goal as housing advocates is to make sure people understand that there are supports and ways to help. And then also we hope in the new year to also continue to do some more education. So, so that's it for the Housing Committee. And I do invite anybody whose passion is housing justice to participate in the Housing Committee. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara. I think what we need to do in terms of the time now is to move ahead with, quickly with any Q&A, Robbie, and then we will have to save the closing time for Jonelle to help us after all of this information about all of the work to really center ourselves again and cool down and calm down.
So are we going straight into Q&A and then
Yes.
Jonelle? Okay.
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Okay, I don't see any questions. So
People have their hands up. Craig has his
Yeah, they-
hand up,
okay,
and
Craig has
Julie
his
Russ
hand up.
had her hand up,
Okay.
and Nat has his hand up.
Okay, so it would be even more
We need
helpful.
to move as quickly as we can through them, so because we're coming, it's 10 to 8 now. We can go a little past 8, but if people will bear with us, but we don't want
Okay,
to.
well, if people, you know, if they keep their questions short, we can probably do that. Let's see. All right, Craig, and then Julie, and then Nat.
Yeah, my question, I guess, is his name Derek or Devin or?
Yes, it's Derek Devermont. And
As city agencies have forms, since we're talking about forms, I'm wondering if indeed the complaint form is available on a website to where it can be seen so people are familiar with what the form looks like and don't have to struggle with, you know, necessarily addressing the form, but getting a sense of what it looks like.
Okay, I'm sorry. He just got in, but I know Michelle has her hand raised as well. She could probably start to answer the question, and then Derek can hop in as well. So
Sure,
Michelle?
sure. Yes, there's an organization that Nat and Julie and I belong to, which met this week, and the chief was our guest. And if I recall correctly, you can tell me if I'm wrong, Julie, Nat, and Reverend Janet. The chief said that the lack of a form is troubling. And although the intent might have been to take anything on a napkin or piece of brown paper, it has not worked out to be as open as the intent might have been. So I got the distinct impression that the chief is going to develop a form like most other departments in the state of California. So anybody else?
I
wanna chime
agree.
in on that?
I think he heard the commission. That would be my take based on what I heard you say tonight. It felt like he's got to deal with this. So
I would say that I don't know about that, what was said here. I'm not saying it's not true, I'm saying I don't know. I will tell you that the commission will be making recommendations And it obviously will be for a forum that has very specific questions and then a narrative of discouragement against people who come in to file a complaint.
If I may, the form does exist, right?
Yeah,
No, it doesn't. The form does not exist.
not
From
yet.
what I've been told, the form that they use is not a complaint specific form, but just basically a general, almost a blank sheet type form where they just hand it to people if they acknowledge it exists. And there are videos, YouTube videos of people going into SMPD saying, "Can I have a complaint form?" And they're like, "We don't have one. You got to go online, can't do it in person, et cetera, et cetera."
Okay. All right. What was it? Nat and then Julie, or Julie and
Yeah,
Nat?
I don't know if Julie's
Go
considered
ahead,
herself
Nat, go ahead.
having spoken. My comments are, I really appreciate the work that you manager and the chief of police. And I told the city manager that this is a great opportunity. And I would wish that you advocates, and I'm one of you, would be patient and work with these new folks, because opportunity means that we can get what you want to get done in a manner that's not adversarial. And some of you who don't know me, I was president for 5 years of the Santa Monica POA in the 60s, and we did more progressive stuff that you would ever believe in 1968, etc. Helping, for example, have a Black actors group at the Academy Awards protest without a hand being laid on any of the protesters, because we took the time to plan how to do it that way. And I'm suggesting that Derek and his team and George and a little bit patient, don't try to push too hard, work to get the people to come together. And I think our leadership now will allow that to happen. That's all I have to say. Thanks, folks. Great meeting.
Okay, Julie.
I think I was just doing the clapping emoji for the last presentation. So, but I think just great meeting. So thank you.
Reason I'm not seeing hands on my computer. Any other hands? Oh,
We can move on.
I think the question came from Mary, and I don't know if Mary's still on. She wanted to know how to access the recordings of all the other videos of all the workshops.
So far, right now, they're actually, they're on YouTube, but Committee for Racial Justice doesn't have a YouTube channel.
Shortly, possibly. So if Mary is on our listserv, she will see the announcement of that and will be able to have access to it.
Right. If she has a certain month, we could send it to her because it is already recorded.
Right.
Yeah, I think she put her email in the chat. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but somebody
Yeah, and I
can.
captured her email too.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Fantastic. Well, if there are no more questions, here's the real good part. I need this part. I need this before I go get my glass of whatever I'm going to get. Would probably be water. Yeah, okay, I hear you, Nat. I hear you. I said water. I said water. But this young lady, unless William wants to play another song, but this young lady, Jonelle, is a woman that I actually met through my daughter. And, you know, y'all know Brandy, she lives on the now. She said, "Mom, my friend is coming." I think Jonelle, you were coming from not East Coast, but from
London.
Europe, from London.
London. Mhm.
And she said, "I want you to roll out the red carpet, treat her well." Well, the first one thing I did was after I said, "Hello, how you doing? Yep, I'm mom of Santa Monica," but I said, "You got to come to CRJ." And I knew she was a yoga teacher. And, you know, still my intent, okay, y'all pray for me, 2022, is to get into that yoga. but I love when she comes on here because at least I get that little bit in. So y'all see me cooperating as she takes us through these yoga stretches. But you know, since she's been here, she is amazing. She's on and now you're gonna have to help me because I had it all on my iPad and now it's dropped. But she's on the Microsoft team.
No, Apple.
Apple. Okay. Apple team for yoga. And I mean, she's just amazing yoga teacher. Janelle, tell them a little bit about yourself so I don't make myself.
So I'm Janelle. My pronouns are she, her. I was born in Philadelphia, but lived in London for 20 years and a recent transplant to California, LA, right before the pandemic. And I'm so blessed to be invited to be here with you all. I work in Santa Monica. That is where the Fitness Plus studios are. That's where our home is. So it's really, really nice to be able to give back to the community. That's so important. And really, I just want to do more and more. And is, you know, I really say every time, I'll put my email in the chat. Call on me if you ever need yoga, meditation, stretch, whatever you need. I'm here for it. So sitting down, if it feels better for you to stand up, you can go ahead and do that. Just find what's comfortable for you. If it feels better for you to turn your camera off, you don't want anybody looking at you, that's super fine as well. But just really being in a position that's comfortable and you feel grounded, I'm just gonna give everything a little shake. Right, shake your wrist, move from side to side, shake high, shake low. Just releasing any tension. And shake a little bit more. And then stop completely. And it's up to you what you do with your hands. Maybe your hands are face down on your thighs, or maybe your palms are face up. And roll your shoulders and allow them to slide down your back. Again, you can be deep rooting down, about hip width apart or wider. And let's take another big shoulder roll up and slide down. One more like this. And start to look towards your right, looking over your right shoulder. Come back into center and look over your left shoulder. Let's do that 2 more times. Just a little bit of mobility for our necks after we've been staring at a computer screen. One more like this to your right. Come back to center to your left. Now from here, you'll come back to center and inhale, reach your right arm up. Nice. And start to take a little lean over towards your eye, or maybe you let your left arm reach down long. Now draw your shoulders down your back. And if you want a little more, you can grab a hold of your right wrist and take a little pull, a little tug. Now breathe into the right side of your body. Stay steady and stable through your feet, through your sitting bones. And then start to look towards the ground. Bring it back into center and look towards your right arm. Take another breath here. Okay, start to lift up a little. Release your right arm down, taking it to your left thigh, your left leg, and let this take you into a twist. So you might bring your hand to your lower back or place it on your seat. You can use your hand if you have a chair and start to spiral, pull your chest through. And then you might look over. Press down through your feet so you feel nice and stable. And spiral and twist, breathe into it. And you'll start to release nice and easy, nice and gentle. Come back into center and just shake it all out of there. We'll do the exact same thing on the other side. So find your stable position, rooting down through your feet. And then start to inhale, reach your left arm up, reaching through your fingertips. Your hand can be your thigh, your hip, or let your right arm drop down. Reach and lean over towards your right side. Breathing into the gills of your body, your side ribs, intercostal muscles. Staying here, or your right hand to your left wrist. Take a little pull, a little lean. You might start to feel a stretch to your outer hip. Thing, and start to look towards the ground. Feeling a stretch through your neck. Bringing it back towards the center. Look towards your left arm. Take a big breath here. Okay, lift up, release the bind, and start to take this into a twist. Your left arm moves across your body, your right hand lower back, or some support. Pull your chest through spiral, drawing your shoulders down your back. Breathing into any tension, any tight spaces. Letting your breath massage those places. Let's take another round of breath like this. Okay, let's release this, come back into center. And here, let's just take standing or seated. And when you're ready, opposite direction. And finding stillness here. If you're standing, you might stay standing, but if it feels better to sit down, we'll come into a quiet moment of reflection just to center and ground before I turn it over. So comfortable position, either standing or seated, making sure you feel steady through your feet, a steady connection to the earth. Again, palms might be face down or face up, or whatever feels better for you. You can close your eyes or have a soft gaze. Start to relax. And we'll just take some moment to inhaling and exhaling. In through your nose, out through your nose. And simply breathing and noticing your breath and how it feels moving in and out of your body. And something as simple as sitting quietly and focusing on our inhales and exhales helps to center us, helps to ground us, and helps to bring us into the present moment. Keep focusing on your inhales and exhales, because you can only breathe for right now. And with each inhale and with each exhale, more centered, more grounded, more present. A few more breaths like this. And bring your palms together to touch at the center of your heart. Flickering your eyes open if they've been closed. to look at each other in the screen and letting your chin drop into your chest and taking a little gratitude and thanks for being in community with each other. Inhale, lifting up, and exhale, releasing your mudra. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be able to be here with all of you. Back over to you,
Wow.
Lindsay.
Wasn't she great, you guys? Y'all feel good? Y'all ready to go get that water now?
So good. Oh,
Oh, thank you, Janelle. You are amazing as well. You are just always make me feel so good. And we'll see you next year, right?
You will see me next year. I'm
Okay.
here, I'm around. That's my email address. Stay in touch. I teach locally, but I also teach for Apple Fitness Plus. I'm on their platform. So
Do it in front of all these 28 people. Okay, 28 people. Janelle, if I put on my computer at what time? Don't make it too early. What
you
time?
do whenever you want.
Oh, whenever I want.
Yeah,
And
whenever you
Robbie,
want.
I'll join with you.
You,
We can
oh,
do
yeah,
it.
whatever
are
you want.
Serious? Okay.
Accountability, girl. I got 2 yoga mats. I can give you one.
Girl, I ain't gonna tell you how many I have, but okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna tune in and we're gonna take pictures of us doing it so that you know that we're doing it. Okay.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you. Okay, everybody, you know what time it is. It's time for our chant. However, Mr. Bryant, are you still on here? William, you still there? Okay.
Yeah,
All I was gonna say is we're gonna do this chant. We're gonna do our Asada chant. This is one of our, session.
Okay.
But I will ask William, if you're still on, you can just play the music. You don't have to sing, just something after the chant as people sign off. Y'all ain't gotta say, y'all
Okay.
sign off, like good night, John Boy. Yeah, we're gonna do that. But let's do the chant first. So
Okay.
everybody,
Oh, sure. No problem.
okay, wonderful. Everybody turn your mics on, and this is how this is gonna go. I'm gonna say the verse, and then you're gonna repeat after me. We're gonna start very low, and we're gonna raise it. We're gonna do it 3 times. We're gonna raise it a little higher, and the 3rd time, we want to hear us. City Hall, or let's see, our relatives in New York, DC, Philadelphia, wherever. But we're gonna shout it out, and it's gonna, y'all can turn down your computer volume if you want to, if you don't want to hear everybody. But I want to hear all y'all. So this is how it goes. I'm gonna read it through first, and then I'll do it line by line. It's by Assata Shakur, which is Tupac's family. It says, it is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Okay, so here we go. Y'all ready? Y'all loosened up and everything. So let's get it. It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is
It is our duty
to
to
fight
fight
for
for
freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must
We
love
must
love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have
We have
nothing
Nothing to lose but our chains.
All right, get it ready now. Going up a little higher. It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty
to fight for freedom.
Y'all sound too relaxed. It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing
to lose but our chains.
Okay, this time put the glass down. Okay. It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty
to fight for
freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
To win.
We must love and support one another.
We must
love
love
and
and support one
another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have
Nothing to lose but our chains.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Holidays, everybody. I love all y'all. I can't wait to see y'all in
Love you guys.
2022. And good night. Take
Job
it
well
away,
done.
Janet, William.
Take care.
Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Happy holidays.
Okay, William, let's hear it. I
Okay.
gotta hear it. I gotta hear it. See, now nobody wants to go home. Oh, I'm home. That's right.
Every praise. Every praise. Every praise to our God. Oh, every praise. Glory, glory, glory. Every praise to our God. Okay, we're gonna take it up a half step, all right? Every praise, every word, every praise, every praise to our God. Sing hallelujah, come on, sing. Glory, glory. Every praise, every praise to our God. Oh, I'm going up one more time. Every praise, every word, every praise, every praise to our God. Come on. Glory, glory. Every praise, every praise to our God. God, my Savior. God, my Savior, my healer, my deliverer. Yes, He is. Oh, yes, He is. God, my Savior. My deliverer. Oh, yes, He is. Yes, He is. Oh, yes. Yes, He is. Every praise, every word, every praise, every praise, every praise, every praise. Oh, every praise. Sing with me, every praise. For my joy and my happiness and my deliverance. Every single praise, every praise is to our God.
That's the workshop. Go on. God bless you, PRJ. Love y'all.
All right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Love y'all.
Thank
I'll
you.
talk to you on-
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Every praise. I'll talk to you on text, William.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Ashley. Thank y'all. God bless you.
Thank you. You too.
Good night, y'all.
Good
night.
Night.